Hello again, everyone. Welcome to the Scientific Coaching Podcast. I am your host, Lucas Bird. Me from Hedgesville, Maryland. I'm still Hagerstown, Maryland. I'm still not used to saying Hedge. I'm not used to you being in Maryland yet. I'm not used to it. I'm not. I think what will happen is I will get used to you when I see you in Maryland. That's
That
when it
makes
will
sense.
finally get to me. Like, okay, he's here. All right, from Hagerstown, Maryland. Mr. Darin Shrewsbury Jr., the four-man Tony Romo. This is episode 4 of season 2. Darin, how you feel about that?
Pretty good, pretty good.
All right, so let's get right into this. We've got I won't call it a loaded show. It's a good show, but it's not loaded. Uh, so there was a rumor coming out this week in the Athletic, and if the Athletic says something, you better really believe it, that the Big Ten, Pac-12, and ACC are are discussing and working toward an agreement on a scheduling alliance. We talked about this with the Pac-12 and Big 12, but now the Pac-12 apparently has said bye-bye to the Big 12. Does this mean going to the ACC is the only acceptable option for West Virginia in conference realignment?
Well, it's it definitely covers all the bases, right? You not only are you basically covering the entirety of the nation in terms of like location of where all these universities are, but you're including a large portion of continuous top contenders in the landscape, right? So you'll it's Clemson, Big 12, not Big 12, sorry. Why am I going to Clemson?
Come on,
Ohio
Clemson.
State,
Come on, man.
Michigan,
Come on.
USC, all of these things. The only things you're leaving out, the SEC. But at that point, you're like, who cares? It's assuming also that the rumors of Ohio State and Michigan apparently being poached by the SEC are not true, which I just have to imagine they probably aren't. But if they are, that kind of changes it a little bit. But the point is, there's a lot of competition right there, and consistent good matchups. Plus, it's very interesting. It's kind of covering the east to west coast entirely, and everything in between.
Do you think, and I just thought of this now, we knew how college football schedules are made. Like, they're made like 6-7 years in advance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that if we had a scheduling alliance, that it would end that practice so as you don't have a USC going to a down Kansas State, assuming Kansas State moves, but okay, take the Big 12 out of it. USC going to a down Maryland. You don't want that. You want USC playing Michigan or Ohio State, or if Minnesota is good, you want them playing that game. Do you think this would be like in basketball where the ACC and the Big Ten already play each other in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, where they're going to go, let's see who's supposed to be good. If we strike out, so be it, but we're going to give you the best matchup we can because this is why they're doing this, to counter the SEC's TV appeal.
I feel like that would be if it works out as well in the football as it would in basketball and everything, which I can't imagine it wouldn't. I mean, if they're making scheduling decisions that close to the season and such, I feel like it would be interesting, right? Because you are kind of guaranteeing a at least somewhat higher quality matchup, even if it ends up not being as high quality because the game ends up just being a blowout. At least a lot of people probably tuned in assuming it was going to be a good one. I am much more interested in watching a USC Michigan game if I know they've both been good rather than watching a USC Maryland game. Most of the time, I'm not interested in watching Maryland anyway. So,
go tell that to all your neighbors.
So I'm definitely, for my personal, I think it would be interesting to see that, at least them maybe even try it and see how it goes. But as far as if I know whether it would work out, I guess it really depends on if they can manage it and how the essentially last minute decision on who's playing who affects football players as much as I guess as little as it might on the basketball players. I don't really know how much it affects them, I guess, but
I don't think it would affect the players as much as it would recruiting,
hmm
because if you're if you're a lower level school, like let's just pick a school and go with it. Let's just say you are. Let's see who in the Big Ten is decent but not always great. I'm going Michigan State.
yeah.
Michigan State. Okay, so if you're Michigan State, they've had a really good run as of late. We both remember when they were really, really good, right? Playing in the
hmm
Rose Bowl. But the last 2 years they have been down, and we don't know when they're going to come back up.
Yeah.
So if you're Michigan State and you're looking at a recruit, and a recruit's asking you, "Who am I going to play?" Well, suddenly you're going to play Ohio State, Michigan. No, no, no. I don't mean about that. I don't care. No, I'm playing in the Big Ten Conference. Who are we going to play non-conference?
hmm
We playing Alabama? No, we're not doing that. They have their own thing. Who we gonna play? We're gonna play like Boston College. I don't want to play Boston College. But so if BC looks like it's gonna be a good team, but ends up going down the tube, okay, great. We've just wasted a week. But so if the schedule's made 6-7 years in advance, and you got Michigan State at Boston College, on paper that might be a game when it's made, it might be a game that goes, oh, okay, that sneaky good game. But then when the game is actually supposed to be played, Boston College and or Michigan State could be in a rebuilding mode, and the game means nothing. Whereas if Michigan State is good and Boston College isn't, you go, hey, Michigan State, how's it like to play UCLA instead? And you have that like schedules. When we were in the Big East always released their schedules the calendar year of the football season. They
hmm
didn't do it like the year in advance. The schedule was always released in like February or March. So the second of two national signing days, the one that is not used that much, is the first Wednesday in February. Could you have it to where you have like you see where all the big time recruits have gone, and you get a lay of the land going, okay, Michigan State's supposed to be good, Minnesota's supposed to be good, North Carolina's pretty good. We think Washington will be something this year, and they go, okay, great. Minnesota, you're playing Washington. North Carolina, you're playing Michigan State, and everyone else, like you just go down the list and you figure it out.
hmm
So you don't. So you have the best possible chance of a good matchup, as opposed to, like I said, putting a good Michigan State team and a bad Boston College team, or vice versa, and getting a blowout halfway through the first quarter.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily last minute, and it doesn't really help you in recruiting in terms of like being able to sell it. But if you keep doing that year after year, recruits are going to get excited because they're going to go, I don't know who I'm playing, but I think we can be. I think we can be pretty good. So we're going to go play someone pretty good. So it could work out to where it could be within reason. At least it's me.
That makes sense. I can't. Don't believe I can do much arguing against that.
All right. I hope you don't. I'm kind of the schedule geek. So like I thought that through. I had a 3-hour car ride to Morgantown. I was thinking a lot. Okay. Speaking of schedules, the Patriots have crossed a game off their preseason schedule. They beat the Washington football team 22-15. Darin got it, had the closest score. He picked 21-17 Pats. I picked 17-10 Pats. So big question here, then we'll go down the road. What'd you think of the Washington game?
I mean, it was definitely an interesting game, right? Look after. I didn't obviously watch it live, but I watched some of the highlights, and there was some obvious, mistakes, leaving some guys open on defensive side, and things that you expect to see in preseason games, right? Um, and then some other interesting things were like you started seeing that Mac Jones was quite accurate with the ball. He was being pretty safe with it. I mean, safe in a good way, not like, oh, I'm just gonna chuck it to the easiest guy at every given moment, get like 2 yards a pop. Like he was being smart and safe with it. And Cam had that one like very very first thing. Basically, he gets hit by, I think it was Chase Young, and Fortunately, I guess that turned into an incompletion, right? But it was almost a fumble.
Oh yeah, I texted you. I was like watching the
Yeah,
game replay. Like Cam got sacked.
yeah.
Nope.
And I remember seeing it was funny. The press conference afterwards. Someone asked him, a reporter asked him, how it was like seeing Chase Young in up close and personal. He was like, he's a lot smaller than I thought he was going to be. And then he's like, I'm obviously joking. The dude's massive. So that was funny. But and then he of course turned into serious. Like, I need to be more careful with the ball. Like that could have easily turned sour quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But Mac looked nice. Ramondre Stevenson was explosive. He had a 90-yard touchdown to end the game.
91.
Um, and the receiving core was generally solid. Johnny Smith got a nice catch and run out of there. James White was utilized a couple times and was just as shifty as always.
Literally 2 times for 2 catches, 22 yards.
One thing I didn't notice or didn't remember was Chase Winovich was actually on the PUP list.
Right.
But he's been activated off of that now, and he's been practicing.
Sweet.
So I did just see that. I didn't even realize he was on it.
I didn't either.
And then, of course, the other thing that I didn't have any idea about was that we had another kicker, and he was the only undrafted free agent signing, you said?
Yeah, Quinn Nordin. I'm going to say Nordin.
I think they were saying Nordin on the I think the commentators were saying Nordin on the highlight.
I think so.
Reel, so
yeah.
I think, but yeah, he went 3 for 3 and long of 50. So that's nice to see from.
But he missed the PAT.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
It doesn't show the that stat here on this list.
He missed the PAT. He made 2 straight field goals of like 35 and then 50, then missed the PAT.
But I mean, still, hitting 50 right off the bat, that gives you pretty solid confidence in the kicking game. If it's between him and Folk, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's some solid confidence there. And let's see, Jake Bailey had a nice 54-yard average in punts, which is always pretty solid.
I feel better about the kicking game this year, knowing that if Nick Folk either gets beat out or, I don't think they'll use a practice squad guy on the kicker, but if Nordin is good enough to where he makes the decision difficult, maybe you try keeping him around.
Yeah.
Maybe. You're not paying Nick Folk that much to begin with, but if you can save a little bit of chunk change, go right ahead.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, for a while, of course, he's been since released and everything. The Marshall, he was on the practice squad for a while last year, wasn't he? Or was he on the active roster?
I don't think he ever made it to the active roster in the game. I
think he did.
I'd have to go back and look it up.
I think he was practice squad basically the entire time. If he, but I don't remember how long it was before. I think he was on the squad for the entire year, right? Before being released, it wasn't or was he released mid-season? I don't even remember.
I don't even remember.
I mean, when your tenure is so unmemorable.
I was going to say that was the exact word. It's like when you are so unmemorable as a football player, it's like,
yeah.
Well,
it's like the only thing that you remember about him, the only 2 things you remember about him is 1, he was for Marshall, and 2, there was immediate controversy because of a tattoo, and I'm not even going to get into that. That's all we need to know.
Okay, here we go. He was waived as part of the team's final cuts last year. He was signed to the practice squad the following day, signed a reserve future contract in January, and on March 23rd this year, he was released by the Patriots.
So it was March, that's so.
So you're right. He did spend time on the practice squad. So if Nordin gives you a little bit of a battle, and the practice squad, I believe, is actually increased in terms of players. I think it's 9 instead of 7 or something like that this year. You got a little more leeway.
Yeah.
Maybe keep the kid around.
Agreed. I mean, he's bumping 50 yarders already, and that's some nice insurance there.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the big talking point of this is Mac Jones' performance. He was 13 of 19 for 87 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. There wasn't a passing touchdown from the Patriots in the game. A lot of people are saying that Mac Jones gave himself a chance to win the starting job. What says you?
I mean, it doesn't hurt his chances, right? But I always like to say you got to add to the data, and he's got one preseason game under his belt. But it doesn't hurt his chances. It certainly doesn't hurt him. I mean, he looked like he knew what he was doing out there, and he looked quite confident. He was already, changing blocking assignments from a few plays where the commentators were like, "Oh yeah, look, he's changing things." So he's getting comfortable with that. And it looked like he and the receivers were on the same page, which is good to see.
Is it me or does this offense kind of feel like it would be set up for him to be successful regardless? Like, if he ended up starting week 1, they're going to run the same offenses with Cam, just a little bit less QB runs, because you have a offense is going to line it up behind the offensive line. They're going to run it down your throat, and they're going to ask the quarterback to pass it when he needs to, not to win the game. So it feels like this is going to be the offense that if Cam starts, great. If Mac Jones starts, we can work with that too, because we don't have to have a rookie quarterback go win us the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's a safe. I think it's a safe decision either way, because of that.
What would you, assuming Cam is the guy right now, what would you want to see out of Mac Jones that would make you say this guy starts when Miami comes to town in mid-September? And can you see that in the preseason?
Mm-hmm. I'm sure you could definitely get a great feel of it from the preseason. I mean, I need to sit down and actually watch full games myself but what you would want to see is, one, what the progression, and two, does he now he doesn't rely on his legs too much, but he can if he needs to, right?
He's Brady part 2. If he needs to, great. But I'm not looking to do it.
Like so you don't want to see him, forcing plays. That sometimes we've seen Cam Newton did last year. Right? He was trying to make plays out of things that were nothing, mostly with his arm, when that caused trouble. So you don't want to see that from either of them, but from Mac, that's one thing I also don't want to see. I know he's already quite accurate, but I want to assess that accuracy, especially with the receiver, with these new receivers, and really see where that's going. I want to, especially coming down to like the goal line area. Once you get into the red zone, how that mindset changes there. Like, oh, I can get a touchdown right here. Let's see, what decisions he makes. In general, it's just all the things that I want to see from Cam too, right? Is just being smart with it, not putting your team in a poor situation because you made consistent bad choices. I mean, really, if he does all of that, he's just as good. Will be just as fine, like you said, just as fine with him or Newton as a starter because of that. And as long as he knows that he doesn't have to make every single play every time he touches the ball, so much so that he forces it because he thinks he has to, I think it'll be fine. But these next 2 games feel of that. And I think based on the first game of what I did get to see of it, it looked like he was already understanding that if he can keep the ball safe, that's more important than trying to make a play every single snap.
I think Nick Saban kind of drilled that into him.
Yeah.
Look, kid, we got, NFL guys all over this field in college. You don't have to make the play.
I mean,
you got guys to make the play for you.
You don't throw 4,500 yards and have a ridiculous touchdown interception ratio and a national championship under your belt if you don't understand that.
Exactly. I was looking at the stats of this game, and listen to this. The Patriots were outgained 367 to 320. Washington had more passing yards, 245 to 141. The Patriots had more rushing yards, 179 to 122. The Patriots had more rushing yards per play, 5.7 to 4.6. But that shouldn't mean that much because Washington ran 80 plays. The Patriots ran 56.
Wow.
Washington had 24 first downs. The Patriots 16. Washington was 12 of 20 on third down. The Patriots were 4 of 12. No team converted a fourth. No team tried a fourth down conversion. The Patriots had 1 sack. Washington had 2. They both punted 5 times, and this is a stat that really does not sit well with me. 3 penalties, 21 yards for Washington. 9 penalties, 58 yards, New England. No.
The penalties, are, as we've discussed multiple times, are always killers. And just like especially with WVU, they're massive killers, but don't want to see that with New England.
No. Especially from a Bill Belichick coach. Seemed like you'd think they would have that drilled out of them by now.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the first game. Time of possession. Washington 34-57, New England 25-03. By all accounts, Washington dominated the game and still lost.
Mm-hmm. And they just didn't capitalize on certain points, right? There were 2 missed field goals by
Dustin Hopkins.
Dustin Hopkins, and he's a solid veteran.
Yeah, he is.
And he's missing kicks. What was it? He missed. Did he also miss a 50-yarder, or was it a 40-yarder he missed?
I don't remember.
But
honestly.
he missed. Now 40-yarder is not a gimme by any chance, but I think the one he missed shorter than that was maybe what, a 30, 35-yarder?
Something like that. Yeah.
He missed one that one would generally assume is a gimme, but as we understand now, especially with PATs being 33 yards, that nothing's really a gimme. But you kind of start assuming when you're in that range, you're probably more safe to get the points. And he just didn't capitalize. I mean, those 2 misses still wouldn't have won in the game, but that would have helped their chances.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that. So before we get out of here, we won't see Washington again this season unless it's in the Super Bowl. So what do we think of them for the whole season? We'll kind of give them a parting shot here. I mean, this is a very interesting team to me.
The running game looked pretty decent. You said it was 4.5, 4.7 yards average.
Yeah,
that's pretty solid. Heineke looked comfortable for the most part. Even the I guess the third string, Montez, he threw the touchdown for Washington. Granted, he also threw an interception, but that was a wild play. I mean, the quarterback realm, I think they're going to be fine, even with Ryan Fitzpatrick, because you know that he'll have his couple games where he just blows up for basically no reason, and they'll destroy whoever they're playing those couple weeks. Destroy is a relative term for Washington standards, but you know, when they win those couple games, you'll know what I mean.
Yeah. This is interesting because I don't believe Fitzpatrick has ever actually been in a situation where he is expected to be the starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think he'll do well at that? Or do you think it'll just be this because he knows, okay, I am the guy? Or will it be another one of the Fitzpatrick seasons where you have 2 good games and the rest is just... Bleh.
I mean, if history shows us anything, it's that it's going to be exactly the same. He's going to have those couple breakout games where you think Fitzmagic is back, the magic dies, and then he fizzles out for the rest of the season. Show me anywhere else in his career where that hasn't happened, and it's still going to be far and few between. So I have zero confidence that it's going to be the case where he'll have a consistent season. But if he throws in, has those couple good games, fizzles out, and they quickly replace him, I think they'll probably be decent in that realm. I mean, Heineke, we don't have a lot of data on. We do have a little bit from last season. I don't know who Montez is actually. He's Montez a rookie?
I think so. I don't remember hearing about him, but They did lose Alex Smith. They had to draft someone.
Yeah,
So,
but
yeah.
I think they're probably in the same position regardless, but at least they'll have two other guys who aren't expected to go and destroy teams because I think they're just going to perform what they know they need to perform and be done with it. But Fitzpatrick, he's going. I cannot feel confident saying that he's not going to, or not going to do the exact same thing that he's always done.
I can't disagree with that. I got 2 questions for you. We'll move on. One, can Washington win 10 games or they're going to be hanging around where they were last year? And 2, is it a playoff team?
That's really tough.
I know. That's why I asked it to you.
Maybe. So I want to say maybe a playoff team, but at the same time, that would probably imply that they have to get at least 10 wins.
We assume the Cowboys are going to be better.
Yeah.
We assume the Giants are going to be better.
Especially with Dak at the helm. If that division is anywhere close to as bad as it was last season, they have a playoff shot.
I'd love that.
Shot. Do I believe they're going to get 10 wins? Doubtful. But I'm not convinced that the conference is going to, or the division is going to be as bad as last season. Again, because Dak's back with the Cowboys, and the Giants might be a little better, and that's basically enough to say that probably not. But
we'll get the Giants in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to say it's more likely that they'll make the playoffs because the division's bad than they are likely to win 10 games.
Fair enough. I can get behind that. I really like the defense. I think they've added some pieces on offense, but again, question marks are still there, and the division, the floor is coming up. It's not as far down as it was.
Mm-hmm.
The ceiling may not be all that high yet, but the floor is getting higher. So, yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah.
Let's stay in the NFC East. We've got joint practices again this year. The Patriots will be will actually be going to Philadelphia to play against the Eagles. We've got joint practice, I believe, Tuesday and Wednesday before Thursday game. I don't think they're doing anything tomorrow, but I don't remember exactly. So this is a team that cleaned house. They traded their quarterback. They fired their head coach. They kept the GM, though, and I'm not really sure why, but they did. First impressions of the Eagles as an organization, I guess, as a team right now, and then into what we think will happen in this game. But this is a really interesting thing because now it's the middle game of the preseason. This will probably be the starters' dress rehearsal. So yeah. This game means something now.
It's one right off the bat. Did I get lost or something happen? When did Joe Flacco become an Eagle?
This offseason. No one quite knows why.
I thought he was already gone and out of the league after last season for some reason. But Joe Flacco's an Eagle, so there's that.
Jalen Hurts is there too.
Jalen Hurts was 3 for 7 for 54 yards, so that's not very pretty. But I mean, 54 yards out of three completions. I mean, okay. But
who started that game for them?
I don't know.
Let me see if I can find out. You go one off. See if I can figure this out.
But so that's interesting. That kind of makes me really confused as to who's going to be the starter at all.
It had to be Flacco. He had 10 of 17 for 170 yards. It had to be Flacco.
So there's, I don't know who's expected to be the starter then. At that point, knowing that Flacco's there, but at the same time, I want to say maybe they'll just go ahead and just give it to Hurts and be done with it.
Nick Mullins for starting quarterback.
Nick Mullins! All aboard the Mullins train.
The guy who Kyle Shanahan didn't want but had to use.
I'm not gonna lie. I don't think I recognize just about anybody in terms of who rushed. I mean, Kerryon Johnson, I recognize that name, but I have no idea who their running backs are.
Boston Scott. I remember him. Jordan Howard, I like him from the Bears when he came over.
Yeah, that's right. They got Jordan Howard. Let's see. The receiving core. They still got Zach Ertz.
Dallas Goedert's pretty good. Jalen Reagor out of TCU is pretty good. Richard Rodgers, I think, can play. Tyree Jackson. I feel like I've heard that name before.
I'm not sure. I think. See, I don't know the one for 79 yards and a touchdown. Quez Watkins.
The defense, though, that's a no-name defense outside of
Yeah,
Fletcher Cox. Like
yeah, pretty
who
much.
and JJ Arcega Whiteside
Yeah, I
who
was gonna
plays for
say
the
I
Patriots.
recognize Whiteside, but I didn't
Javon
remember where
Hargrave
I
too,
recognized
but
him.
everyone else is like, it's Patrick meme. Who are you people?
It's like, who are you people? Jake Elliott's
Viacom, do
still a
not come
solid
after
kicker.
us.
Jake Elliott's still a solid kicker. You know, he was 3 for 3 for 50 as well. So that's always solid. But honestly, I don't really expect much of anything surprising from the Eagles, even during the season, but especially not in a preseason game. I mean, they got, again, this is preseason, but they got relatively lit up by Dwayne Haskins for
Dwayne Haskins.
for 161 yards and a touchdown.
On how many attempts?
16. So about 10 yards. 10 yards.
10.1.
Yeah. Mason Rudolph was 8 of 9 for 77. Again, they're rushing. I don't know who they're rushing. The Chase Claypool. What? Dwayne Haskins rushed for 2 times, still lost yards. Jalen Samuels, I think I recognize that name. Brooks James, don't know who that is. Peter Guerrero, no idea. Najee Harris, they do have him.
I was going to say, did he play?
Yeah, he got 10 yards on 2
10
carries.
yards. That's a lot less than I thought he'd play.
Yeah.
But I think he started the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Back off.
He did get a reception for 9 yards as well.
All right. You know when they're going to kick him in a high gear, like in November and December when they need to run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They're just going to keep him hidden until like Thanksgiving. Then they're going to bring him out and go, "Oh, that's right.
Don't
Y'all forgot
forget
we
him.
had him."
Exactly. But Pittsburgh went up. They went 24-16 over Philly. Oops, I clicked a. There we go. But I don't know what to expect with Philly, to be honest, at all. I mean, I didn't even know Joe Flacco was on the team, so that just blows my mind.
This is a first-year head coach overall. Like, I don't want to say scary because we just don't care about this team. Like, we don't. But if you were an Eagles fan, does the first-year head coach thing scare you, or do you just go, we'll see how it goes?
Given how atrocious they were last season, I'd almost feel like there's very, very little they can do to be worse, other than just going winless. But
please do. Please do. I don't believe they should have fired Doug Peterson, so I want them to be taught a lesson.
Yeah, it's very, very weird decision. I don't expect them being. If they end the season just as bad as they were last season, it wouldn't surprise me. Would you can
Sirianni after? Would you give him a chance, given that they're tearing down the whole roster?
Yeah, I feel like it would be very irresponsible to do that after one season, especially given that they basically canned everybody else. But it also wouldn't surprise me if they did, because a lot of people make that decision off of one season.
Why? No one really knows.
I don't think it's a good idea, though. Yeah, I definitely don't think it's a good idea, though.
You know how I feel. I'm not in favor of coaches being blamed for players' problems.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've got an insubordinate quarterback, Carson Wentz, you can't really do much with that. So
yeah, and I think this was immediately after last week, we found out that Carson Wentz had ankle surgery, right?
Correct.
It was like immediately after we were talking about the fact that if Carson Wentz can, then maybe the team will be decent.
Right. And the Colts, yeah. The Colts, I wrote about it on our scientific coaching website. I wrote about the Colts quarterback situation outside of Carson Wentz.
Mm-hmm.
It ain't good. It ain't good. You got a first and second year quarterback. Second year quarterback, Jacob Eason. Wait, is he in Buffalo? I don't remember who it is, but it's one of those like the Georgia kids. And then rookie Sam Ellinger. I don't want a
Sam
first or
Ellingo.
second. I don't want a first or second year quarterback controlling an AFC playoff team.
Especially don't want Sam Ellingo.
Yeah. No. So he'll think beating the Jaguars is a birthright.
Yeah. He like, oh, I beat Trevor Lawrence. I beat the literal worst team in football last season. I did it. Ha 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 ha. Texas is back.
You're right. It won't be we. It'll be I.
Yeah. Texas is back.
Like, but Sammy and Ivan, Texas is back. I told you that. Like, all right.
You're in Indianapolis now.
All right.
Yeah, but Texas is back, right?
You know what I just realized? If he stays on the roster, he's got to go to Texas once this year. They play the Texans in the same division. Man, that'll be fun.
Now
That'll be a game where like the Texans are gonna be bad, so no one's gonna care. You'll have like all Texas fans. It's like that NRG Stadium will be turned burnt orange for that game because the chosen one, the favorite son Sam Ellinger comes back to Texas. God forbid they play the Cowboys.
Yeah.
All right. So, score predictions for the Patriots and the Eagles is as follows. Darin, please give me yours first.
I'm going to go 17-7 New England.
I'm going to go 27-10 Pats. I think the offense can get into gear a little bit more against an Eagles defense I don't think is anywhere near as good as Washington's. In fact, I know they're not near as good. I know they're nowhere near as good as Washington's. Washington's got a pretty good defense.
Yeah, they don't have Chase Young on the line, so
Washington's not a bad team. It really isn't. People are making jokes, but that's not a bad team.
It's just a team that has really, really bad luck all the time.
Yeah,
it's like every time you think they're going to have a decent season, something bad happens that ruins any chance of that.
But okay, let's take a look at last year. Coach has cancer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Beats it. I believe it's in remission, right? I think he's good.
I do believe it is in remission from last I recall seeing.
Awesome. So you have that good. Dwayne Haskins bad. You also had Chase Young. No, it was Dwayne Haskins who had that like emotional pregame or halftime speech in week 1 and then was stripped of his captaincy and released last year. So good and bad. Made the playoffs, lost to Tom Brady. No shame in that. Up and down. Up and down that team is.
Uh-huh. Very.
All right, let's move on to our hell of a story. Man, this is a fast show, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens when we don't have a whole lot to go on. The NFL, Major League Baseball had a game in Iowa last week at the Field of Dreams. They built a stadium in the same corner where they filmed the movie Field of Dreams, which they actually kept the original movie set, and it's just there. You can go and play catch on and do all that, which is kind of cool. It was the Chicago White Sox and the New York Yankees. It was one of the most exciting ends to a baseball game I've ever seen in my life. The Yankees were down by 3 going into the 9th inning, and ended up taking the lead in the top of the 9th inning. And the White Sox walked it off on a 2-run home run, actually a 3-run home run, with 2 outs in the 9th inning.
Wow,
that was exciting. And they also did the Field of Dreams is like players from the 40s coming back and playing like 1985 or whatever. So they had most people the broadcasters and people working the manual scoreboard were dressed in 40s attire. It was really kind of a nice little blast of the past kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 uniforms 2 teams were wearing looked like 40s uniforms. Except the Yankees look like their normal uniform, just a different number style on the back because the Yankees haven't changed in 75 years. But here's my question. If the NFL or college were to do something like that, where they had a game played at a special location to honor history or to pay homage to a certain place or tradition or whatever. Like the NHL Winter Classic pays homage to the fact that a lot of players in the NHL grew up playing on ponds in Canada or wherever they were. That's when I started playing hockey. Then moved into like actual indoor rinks. If NFL or college football would do something like that, where would you put the game and where would you want it to be played? Or where would you put the game and who would you put in the game?
I think this is definitely where my knowledge of sports history starts lacking, because first off, when I saw that the video of that of them walking out of a cornfield, I think Michael Lingenhofer had shared that on Twitter, and I saw it. And I'm like, I actually don't know what this is referencing.
You've never seen Field of Dreams?
I honestly, I'm not sure if I have, and if I have, it was like a long time ago. I won't even lie about that.
Darin,
So
this has to change ASAP.
like I'm
all caps
and
ASAP.
And if I have watched it, yeah, it's been a very long time, but I genuinely cannot remember if I have. So like it took me, and I was like, okay, I've at least heard of the Field of Dreams, right? I'm at least aware that it's a movie, but when he just shared it, it didn't have any context. I saw walking out of a cornfield. I'm like, I don't know what this means, and I knew that like sports fans everywhere would probably smack me in the face, which is probably fair.
Be glad I'm not near you right now because I'd be one of those people. Just gonna put that out there.
So I think that's definitely where a lot of my knowledge in that realm just is not present. So I don't think I'd be able to create a proper answer, honestly.
Would you like mine?
Yeah, of course.
Portsmouth, Ohio. Packers, Lions. Here's why. In 1933, the Portsmouth Spartans were moved to become the Detroit Lions. Actually, 1934, but they were sold in 33. In the early NFL, the NFL did not actually issue a centralized schedule. It just was an agreement among several teams to play each other. So you may have a team that played 15 games, team that played 12, team that played 8, just whatever the case may be. The Green Bay Packers were among the founders. Well, they came in the NFL. I don't think they were one of the founding teams. I think they came in a little bit later. But the Portsmouth Spartans, the Depression was in the 30s. The stock market crashed in 1929. Times were rough. The city of Portsmouth, Ohio, could no longer support an NFL team. So even back then, the people, a conglomerate from Detroit bought and moved, became the Lions. We know the rest. So I believe it was like in 32 or 31, I think. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that's when it was. The Packers and the Spartans were the two best teams in the league. And they had agreed to play each other in the last week of the season to determine who would be the NFL champion. The Packers never showed up. They just outright did not go to the game. And they played someone else instead. So I would love to see the Packers play the Lions in Portsmouth Stadium, in Spartan Stadium, which is still standing in Portsmouth, Ohio, and throw back to to the original NFL back then, and have the Packers finally go down to Portsmouth 70-some years later, like they should have been, to determine the NFL champion. And Spartan Stadium is showing its age. The NFL could do itself a major PR move and help renovate the stadium, renovate the locker rooms, do all that. Help the city of Portsmouth out. The city of Portsmouth still owns and maintains it. But if they couldn't support an NFL team in 33, what makes you think they can afford to pay a stadium that old now? If you've been to Portsmouth, Ohio, you know it's not what it used to be. The NFL money could very well be used to help that stadium, and it could help that community. You could sell tickets only people in the state of Ohio or in the surrounding areas. You couldn't have people from California coming in like they did. I don't know if this was a COVID thing or not, but only Iowa residents were allowed in the Field of Dreams game.
Huh? I wasn't aware of. I
8,000 Iowa fans. Well, they may be Iowa fans, but Iowa residents.
Interesting.
So you could do something like that, or you could just open it up free for all, having because Portsmouth ain't got hotels to go, so you could put them in like Huntington or like Kentucky or whatever. It's right in the tri-state area. Portsmouth is. It'd be great to do that. I think that's what I would love to see. I would love to see the NFL embrace its old history and have the Packers finally play the Portsmouth Spartans, now Detroit Lions, in a game. And since that was supposed to be the first week in February or December, I mean, uh, have the Packers play like in the other game on Thanksgiving. Had the Lions always play on Thanksgiving, and then give these two teams like a week in Portsmouth. Like you can have like a whole to do out of it. Like you can go, all right, guys, you're playing on Thursday. You got Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. On Monday, we want you to be on a plane to Portsmouth, Ohio. Then you have like Tuesday, you have all this kind of stuff. Have like a whole media thing like you do for the Super Bowl leading up to it. Then play the game on Sunday. That's what
That'd
I
be
would love
pretty
to
neat.
see. In my opinion, they missed their chance with the 100th anniversary 2 years ago,
Hmm.
but I'd still love to see it. Because I see enough, like international games are fun, but I think it's high time the NFL started acknowledging what it used to be.
Not
And
sure we're
not
gonna get
just,
much of that from Goodell, though.
no, and not just throwing out, here's our history, here's our 100th season. Enjoy Packers Bears. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I know it's the oldest uh, rivalry in the league, but like, you do realize where this league started, right?
Hmm.
It started out in a car dealership in Canton, Ohio. Go back, at least acknowledge that. Not just, oh, sorry, you know, we want NBC on this. Like, no, no. I don't know that and I hate to say it, but if it's going to be a Lions home game, like, you're not selling out Ford Field anyway. Why do
Nope.
you care if you don't have a home game?
This is true.
Like, what do you care? You're not going to sell the place out anyway. But I would love to see that. I genuinely would love to see it. I actually didn't know that the Spartans became the Lions until I watched a documentary on the very old NFL. But I learned that. It's actually kind of cool. Portsmouth and Green Bay were two of the last remnants of the old NFL, like the small town Ohio, Pennsylvania, that NFL. By then, the league expanded to like Chicago and like other places that it started to become more of a city based instead of a small town based league. And then when Portsmouth couldn't afford to support it, the only reason Green Bay could support the Packers is because of the fact they had the meatpacking industry, which didn't collapse during the Depression. And Portsmouth had a railroad connection to the Norfolk and Western Railway, which the N&W was a coal hauler primarily, but I don't think there was any mines around Portsmouth. I think it was just like steel foundries, stuff like that. So people don't need steel. You're kind of out of luck, you know. A lot of places on the N&W were just fine because they were mining coal, and coal still fired the fireplaces of most American houses. So you still need to keep the house warm. But uh, Portsmouth losing, the Spartans kind of it signified the end of the original NFL and started to go more toward the NFL that we know today. Although it took a more long time to get to where we are now, but still, I would love to see the NFL acknowledge and celebrate its history because it really is a fascinating history of how we got to where we are today. It truly is. I'm done now. Wouldn't that be fun?
Definitely.
I can't. I tried thinking of something for college, but I couldn't think of anything like I guess like Rutgers and Princeton played the first football game, first college football game. Have them play, but we already passed the 150th anniversary of the sport 2 years ago, so like kind of out of luck, you know.
Yeah.
I don't really know how that would work, but it would be kind of cool to see that. But Anyway, that's my 2 cents on that. I was thinking about that, and I'm like, if we could do something like this, kind of on the history of the NFL, what would we do? It's not the Hall of Fame game. Oh, I know, Portsmouth. So, barring anything else, I believe that's our show. I don't think we have anything else to go into unless I forgot something.
I don't. I haven't seen anything that you didn't cover or anything else that would be worth it.
All right. So that's our show. This has been Scientific Coaching Season 2, Episode 4. Reminder that you can get, we're going through the process of this. By we, I mean me. Uploading all of our old episodes to YouTube. This will take some time. We had like 50 of those or something like that, 40 at the least, over the course of last season, from when we started this back at the 2020 draft. So it'll be a while before we get all of those up there, along with current episodes like this.
Mm-hmm.
But we're getting there. If you feel so inclined as to check those out, they'll be there. There's not a set schedule. I'm not like we're not doing one on like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, but no, just whenever we can get it out. But we're gonna get all ours out there, as well as new episodes when they're released. So if you want to listen on YouTube, you'll have the opportunity to do so, and then we'll do other stuff as content and stuff allows. As we get a chance, we'll do that. But that's what we're trying to do now. And of course, you can listen on Spotify and wherever you get your podcast. We're not just only on YouTube anymore. But you can get wherever. The bottom line is, if you want to listen to us, you've got places to do it.
Yep.
And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It would be greatly appreciated. Also, like and comment. Helps us out. And share with your friends if you think they'd enjoy it too. So, for Darin, I'm Lucas. This has been Scientific Coaching Season 2, Episode 4. Darin, take us home.
See you later, everybody.